I keep going back to the worry because that's what we talk about so much. You're never going to have to worry about money again if you do this process, right? And it's really true. I don't worry about money. I really don't. Every dollar has a clear purpose, right? And even if I do get to the point where I'm like, I feel worried, I know exactly what to do, right? I have a system, I have a framework for dealing with my worry, and I can resolve it like really quickly. I mean, that's just everything to me, you know?
How you make it, how you wanna make it, how you make it, how
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Tag, we're it. That's right. We have been tagged. So there's this YNAB tag game going on over on YouTube. And it started with Neve. Budget with Neve. You got to check out her channel.
I have been looking everywhere for a YNAB tag video and I haven't been able to find one. So I did what any self-respecting YNAB nerd would do, and I created one myself. So welcome to the first ever YNAB tag created by me, Budget with Neve.
And she basically answered 13 questions regarding YNAB, tagged 3 or 4 people, and now it's kind of just rippling out. So I thought it'd be fun, Ben, if we answered those questions and then tagged 3 other YNABers.
Yeah, I think this is a really fun challenge. We got 13 questions.
13.
Is that right?
Well, actually 12. The last one
12.
is where we kind of, tag.
We passed it along.
Yeah,
So stay tuned, guys, because you'll see who we tag at the end, and then you can check out their channels.
But
see what they do.
I think what I'm so excited about is these questions are really going to get deep into our own personal YNAB stories, which, we've shared a lot of stories throughout the years, but they've been surface level. I feel like we really have a chance here to go deep, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, we've thought about eventually just doing we interview each other, kind of a thing, and really get into our stories. But this will ask some specific questions that kind of get into it.
Yeah,
so that's fun.
Maybe a primer for that full in-depth interview later on. Who knows? All right, so should we just start it off?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Question number 1: how did you discover YNAB?
Okay, you want to go first?
Sure. It was an internet search.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Because you're just it was totally, we call that organic, right? That's in the marketing world. That's an organic acquisition.
Well,
right?
Hold on, because you didn't get me with the organic search.
Okay.
So
interesting.
I've always been, basically since I graduated college, a personal finance nerd. I like that material. So I would, read the books, read the blogs. Podcasts weren't a thing back then, but if there was, I would have listened to all of them.
Yeah.
And so I just was always dabbling with personal finance software.
Deep in that world.
Yeah, deep in that world. And I just liked experimenting with new software. So just, all right, throw in a Google search and see what comes up. And I kept seeing this "you need a budget" software. But you know what? I was cheesed out by the name.
You were
dead serious.
Have you told this story before? I don't think I knew this.
I have mentioned it.
Okay.
It's been brief.
I've forgotten.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just like,
so living proof, guys.
I was
the move to just call ourselves YNAB.
Yes.
There's a reason.
Yes.
Ernie might not have done it.
I just thought it was cheesy.
Yeah, well, it is. Well, that's because it is cheesy.
and I didn't give it a fair shake. I wish I would have, but I was just kind of like, whatever. And I just moved on to other software. But so yeah, when we made that switch years ago from "you need a budget" to YNAB, I was like, yes, perfect move. Thank you.
Interesting. Okay. But you were just searching, that Google search was just budgeting software or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So that's when you first heard about it. And I guess the next question is what made you actually sign up? So we'll hold on that and we'll go to me. I heard about YNAB on Steam, which is a video game store. Okay. It's like a a place. It's like a lot of things. If you don't know what Steam is, don't worry about it. But if you know, you know, right? It's just a place where you buy video games, and there's like a social element, and like it's like a launcher, so like it launches games on PCs, right? And it was so funny. Like, it was a big joke in the whole community on Steam, because this is like the only piece of software I've ever seen that is not a game that showed up on Steam. Like, this is a gaming platform,
Weird.
right? Yeah, and I wish actually wish I'd looked into this more, because there's a story here. I want to say Kyle, one of our developers, I might be wrong on this, suggested that we put it on Steam, like just as a suggestion. And apparently at the time, this is well before, obviously it was well before I was working here, it caused YNAB to blow up quite a bit because it brought a lot of visibility.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was many years ago. This was before this was YNAB 4 days, right? So they put it up on Steam. It got a lot of traction from that, a lot of sales from that. I think one thing about Steam is there's a lot of sales. So I think it was some ways it was bad for us, because it was sold like really cheap, like maybe too cheap sometimes.
Okay.
For the business, but it definitely got a lot of attention, and I just thought it was so funny. And you can still find the reviews today if you Google it. There's reviews on YNAB's old Steam page. It's not available on Steam anymore, but you can still see the reviews that are really funny. Like, there's some that are just hilarious. There's a big culture on Steam of like funny reviews. That's like a thing.
Okay.
And they're so funny. It's like, well, when you spend money in the game, you spend money in real life. And it's just like, it's just really funny, like playing off, like
Sure.
pretending like this software is a game.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a gaming platform. So yeah, so that's how I found out about it first, but I didn't use it right away. But that's the first time I heard about it.
So you're searching for games to buy, and you're like, oh, budgeting software. Yep, sign me up.
Yeah, it just showed up. Well, I was like already kind of primed to be intrigued by it because of I was using Mint at the time, and it wasn't quite working for me. So yeah, I didn't do a Google search. It just popped up on its own. I guess on Steam, or maybe I saw it on Reddit, people talking about it. Yeah, that kind of thing. But it was ultimately because they posted on Steam, I found out about it.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so question 2, what made you actually sign up and commit to YNAB?
Yeah, why don't you go with that one first?
For me, it was my friend Adam. So I
Okay.
did the search. I've heard of You Need a Budget, cheesed out. But
Mhm.
then I met this guy online, Adam, and he is a wonderful human being who is a complete YNAB nerd. Like,
Okay.
he's one of those who he's us now. He could not stop talking about YNAB and just about
Yeah.
how awesome it was and how fun it was to use. And he kept telling us there was this group we had this online group of guys that would just kind of connect quite often. And he was just always talking about YNAB, like would not shut up about it. And so finally, I was like, all right, Adam, I've heard about this. You are saying nothing but good things. I'm going to give it a shot. And I did for like 2 weeks, and then I quit.
Yeah.
It's just
A very common story, I think, right?
something wasn't clicking. But
Yeah,
then
and you were already like pretty experimental because you were trying other software and playing around with it quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it might be normal for you to just like try something out and then let it go.
Yep. And I mean, in hindsight, I don't think I gave it a fair shake in those 2 weeks or whatever the time frame was. But then Adam just kept getting on my case. He's like, no, dude, like, seriously, give it another shot. Keep at it. Stick with it. Because eventually it's going to click and you are going to love it. And he was absolutely right. So during my second trial, boom, that's when things clicked.
Love it. Okay. Well, for me, I'm trying to think of the time frame. I think I saw it probably on Steam. I probably saw it like in August. This is 2013. And then I didn't like really give it a whole lot of thought. And then I started looking into it a little bit in September. And I thought the whole idea was pretty dumb. Like I was, I've talked about this before. The idea of only working with the money that you have was kind of a non-starter for me at first because I just thought I just didn't get it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I had been using Mint, which is now defunct, for before that, and that's all forecasting based, where you put in your income for the whole month and you set spending limits based on that income, right? And even that, it wasn't zero base. Like it wasn't like every dollar had a job. It was more like you set spending limits on certain things, right? And it would track it.
Yep.
So I wasn't like I don't know. It just seemed kind of I didn't understand how it would work. So I just got the basic concept and I thought it was dumb and I kind of dismissed it. And then credit to Caitlin, she actually read some of the guides that were written back then. And she read a guide explaining what it means to only work with money you have right now, only work with money you have in the bank. And she kind of explained it to me, and it's like she was very intrigued by it. And I was like, okay, I can see the appeal because it had arguments for why this is better. You know, it gives you more clarity on what you can actually freely spend because every single dollar in YNAB available represents a real dollar in the bank. And it also helps you figure out what your priorities are because you have to prioritize because you can't imagine more money, right? You can't pretend like there's more money than you actually have. So that was really intriguing to me. And then the idea of getting a month ahead, I think that is what sold me more than anything. Because I was always kind of one of these people like, I really liked the idea of paying bills early. Like I think I paid my rent. My landlord loved me because I think I got to where I was paying my rent like 2 weeks early. But it just gave me like security.
Yeah.
And this was like a way to like sort of quote unquote pay my bills early without actually letting go of the money early.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think it just really appealed to me. I just liked being ahead of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the first thing I wanted to do. So when we
Wow.
signed up, yeah, but there was other things going on too. Like we were expecting a new baby, and also Mint was kind of like not working. I think we broke it a little bit because I think I was actually trying to get it to work like YNAB. Like I wanted it to be zero base, and so I was like trying to make the math work, but like Mint wasn't. At the time, it just was not set up for that. And I was throwing these errors, like it was giving me calculation errors. Like it was saying like I had like $10,000 more than I did, and I didn't understand why. And of course, there's like no support. So,
I was going to say, I can't imagine the Mint support team being very helpful, if even existent.
well, I don't even think I tried because there wasn't an expectation. It's free, you know, like it wasn't even an expectation of any support. So it was just like I think I broke the poor thing because I was trying to get it to do more than it was designed to do. And so I was a little dissatisfied with that. And then like the baby's coming, we knew we had to save for some lost wages and for the medical bills, which is just a huge. It was like one of our biggest first huge savings goals, right? After we got married, so that was going on, and then this idea of getting a month ahead, I was super intrigued by that, and so yeah, we signed up and never looked back at all. Like I remember thinking within the first couple weeks. I could not function any other way. It just clicked with me right away because of this idea of only working with money you have. It gave me so much clarity, and then getting a month ahead was so exciting to me. So that was the first thing I went after.
Yeah, that's really interesting because the month ahead was like the last thing that I kind of grasped onto. I remember thinking right away, like that is unattainable. I am never, like seriously, that's what I told myself. I'm never going to be able to get a month ahead because at the time I could barely even save $100 a month, let alone an entire month's worth of expenses.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, like I didn't have as many obligations at that time. We didn't have any kids. Our income was small. So like, it's almost ironic. It's kind of like, well, your income's small, so it's harder to save to get a month ahead, but also there's less, there's not as large of an amount to save because the amount we were spending every month was smaller. So we saw the opportunity, and we were already cutting expenses to save for the baby. So we were like, let's just knock this out and then we'll save for the baby. So it worked for us and we just went for it. But yeah, I always find that really interesting that was like the first thing I latched on to.
Yeah.
And for you, it was like the last thing. But it's kind of cool.
All right, question 3. How long have you been using YNAB? This is actually funny that we're talking about this because we've always had it wrong. Like, not the
Yes.
years, but we've gotten it backwards. So I've been using it 13 years. I paid for, well, at the time it was the software, May 14th, 2013.
Okay.
And I think since the beginning of the show, we always thought that you started YNAB before me.
Yeah, but you did.
But
'Cause I
it
didn't
turns
start-
out I did, yeah.
October 2013. Yeah, for me. So we're pretty close. But yeah, you actually started first. So
And
pretty cool.
I'm such a nerd. Like, I have a calendar event with my YNAB anniversary.
I love it.
Yeah, so every May 14th,
You were
that
able to
pops
find
up.
your email, right? I
Yes.
feel like I've looked for my email over years. I'm not sure I ever found it. But I'll look for it again. If I find it, we'll put it on a screenshot on the screen or with some things blurred out. But that might be kind of fun to show that.
All right, question 4. How has YNAB changed your relationship with money?
All right,
And
here's
try
the
to
good
keep
stuff.
it under 30 minutes. I feel like
he says to me.
Well, I could talk for that long too. I feel like we
Totally.
both, I mean, because this is where it gets good.
Yeah, I think I'll go first with this one. I think it's just I keep going back to the worry because that's what we talk about so much. You're never going to have to worry about money again if you do this process, right? If you use YNAB, and it's really true. I don't worry about money. I really don't. Every dollar has a clear purpose, right? And even if I do get to the point where I'm like, I feel worried, I know exactly what to do, right? I have a system, I have a framework for dealing with my worry, and I can resolve it like really quickly. I mean, that's just everything to me, you know? Like, okay, I have an example of that happening where the worry kind of crept in again because all at once I got hit with big future expenses. This was just like a couple months ago. Teddy needed braces, which you've been warning me about.
Oh, wow. That day is here. Oh, man.
Yesterday we just put in the big payment.
Oh,
for
my
it.
goodness. Oh, my goodness.
I did not know this was possible. I was like, oh, you get braces when you're a teenager, right? Like, I'm not gonna have to worry about that for several years. But apparently, you can put braces on baby teeth, and he needs it.
I have, yeah, okay. We're not going to get into that, but yeah, I'm fuming on the inside. Anyway.
well, my dentist came to me and she was like, I'm concerned about Teddy. I'm concerned about, so Teddy is 10 years old. And she's like, I'm concerned that he, well, I don't want to say all of his medical stuff, but he has like a lot of crowding, you know?
Yeah.
And his mouth is small and it's like causing problems with like his breathing while he's sleeping, right? So they need to like expand his mouth size. I don't know. Stuff needs to move around, right?
Sure.
But I was not on my radar that would happen to a kid. And I found out that's very common. Like, that's very normal. So new for me. But we went to the orthodontist and Caitlin was sending me pictures. She like went to this orthodontist and this place was like fancy. Like ostentatious spending. Like there was like leather panels on the walls of this orthodontist office. And I'm like, guys, this is not a good look.
I hear you, man.
You're making it very clear that you're overcharging me because there's a soft serve ice cream thing in the lobby.
Okay,
Right?
like really? Like that's the worst. Even if you don't have braces.
I know. I was just like, I like there's just like all these amenities. But we are going with them because Caitlin met with the people and felt like really good. Like the staff was great. But like my first reaction was like, you guys are just advertising that you have a ton of money, which means you're gonna overcharge me. But anyway, it was just like funny experience. But yeah, so that was happening, and yeah, he really does need it. I'm convinced. And then I got word that the old 2005 Cadillac is at death's door.
Oh
sadly.
no.
Yeah, my grandpa's old caddy that we got after he passed away. It's very common. It has a head gasket. It's leaking coolant into the engine, and I have to replace the coolant like every week.
Okay.
And eventually, it's just so I might be able to find if anybody is a Cadillac enthusiast who wants to repair a head gasket that costs like $7 grand to repair. Let me know. Maybe we can make a deal. But I'm just like, so I might try and sell it, or I might just keep it until it's gone. But
Sure.
we do need to start saving for a new car again. I just bought a
Yeah, I
van
just got the
6 months ago.
minivan. Oh, geez.
Yeah. So that's a bummer thing too. So there were a couple other smaller things too. So I was just getting worried. I was getting worried about money, and I was telling you, I was just like, and there were like just like things to do around the house. I was just like anxious about a lot of things. Like there was just a lot on my plate, right? And Kevin was like, "Well, let's look at YNAB. Like let's deal with this." And I was like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, we have this framework, right?" I'm just freaking out. I'm just feeling anxious, and I recognize I'm feeling anxious. And Kaylin was like, "Let's look at it." And we sat down. We moved some money. We said no to some things, like we're going to change a vacation that we were saving for. We're going to change that up a little bit, do something smaller. I felt really good about it. And yeah, it was, I was just, the worry, when we say never worry about money again, like it's not like this worry is not going to ever come up, but when it does, you're going to have a way to deal with it. And that's what it is for me. Like, I just don't want to have to worry about money. And if I do, I want to have a way to deal with it. And that's what YNAB does for me.
Nice. Well, I'm just going to kind of throw up here my thoughts, and we'll see if it comes out. We can make it coherent, because there's just so much. So I think for me, YNAB made me good at money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly.
Yeah.
Looking back, I thought I was good with money, but I was not. I mean, I was paying my bills on time. In fact, I paid every single bill on time. And I thought, hey, that's what you do. Like, people who are good at money, they pay their bills on time.
Right.
But boy, there was so much worry outside of that. Mm-hmm. You know, we could never pay for the car repair that popped up, or Christmas every single year. Like, we were putting that on the credit card and then paying it off with next year's tax refund. We did that year after year after year. And it was always so stressful.
Yeah, it's like you pay the bills, but it's like last minute stuff constantly.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, our emergency fund was the credit card. And that was just very, very stressful. So it was very difficult to save, to reach any of our goals, to make headway on our debt, because at that time we had a ton of debt. We had a mortgage, we had a second mortgage, we had 2 student loans, car loan, medical debt, and some credit card debt. And just like, oh my goodness, we were swimming in that worry. So when I found YNAB, it just radically changed how I think about and approach money. So I went from reacting to what was happening. We'd spend money, and then we'd figure out a plan on how to, make that spending work, basically. I went from that to being proactive. I'm making a plan for my money. We get paid. What is this money for? And it was so life-changing, because when we started doing that, we actually started seeing gains. We started being able to save money. All of a sudden, these non-monthlies would pop up, and we'd be like, oh my goodness, there's money for these things. Or Christmas would roll around. Hey, we don't have to put this on the credit card anymore. And we started reaching some of our financial goals and paying off our debt. It was just completely different. And so, looking back to those beginning months and even maybe beginning years of YNAB, I'm like, why didn't it click? And it wasn't that the software was hard, because it wasn't. It really wasn't. You were taking money that you got and just putting it into categories. Where I was stuck was in my old traditional budgeting mindset of forecasting and then reacting to my spending.
Right.
And I think, when I made the switch to being proactive, it brought in trade-offs, because, you would make trade-offs, meaning you would make changes in your spreadsheet, right? When you're doing the old traditional budgeting method, you're forecasting, you're tracking your spending, but I was just making the math work, basically. I was just reconfiguring some of those cells,
Yeah.
but I wasn't actually feeling the trade-off because I don't think there was a trade-off. I was just trying to have it all, but somehow make the math work. But it didn't work because at the end of every single month, there was a net loss.
Right.
So
You just weren't getting any traction.
yeah, there was something about with YNAB I could see and I could feel every trade-off that Christy and I had to make. And that just kind of opened our eyes to what it means to manage money. So life-changing.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely life-changing.
Yeah. I feel like I hear all this time. There's like this element of surprise for a lot of people in their first few months using YNAB, because they're like, where did all this money come from? You know what I mean? Like they get this traction for the first time. And I hear people say like, did I forget to pay a bill? Why is this all this money in my checking account? It's almost like you do this method, you do this process of just thinking about trade-offs and assigning money specifically and spending out of that. And there's like this emergent thing that comes where you get traction for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, where you can actually, the savings actually stick. You know, you can actually start going after some goals. And I think you nailed it, Ernie. I think you're right. It's really about finally acknowledging trade-offs, like finally acknowledging I can say yes to this, but the cost of saying yes to this is saying no to that. Right. And at first that might seem like a bummer because you're saying no to something, but it actually means you're saying yes to this. And that's what you actually value. But until you actually assign only the money you have and work with that, you don't really see those trade-offs. So you don't really know what you want.
Yeah.
And then you don't get any traction to what you actually want. You just kind of spin your wheels all the time.
I think the best piece of advice I have for new YNABers who are struggling, forget your old way of managing money.
Mm-hmm.
You got to give up those old habits and mindsets and just embrace the YNAB way. Give it a fair shake and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm all for I'm all for a method. Like I did this with my pool. I'm like, I just want somebody who has tried this and like proven this to just teach me a way, and I'm gonna just do that way. And if it doesn't work for me, I'll let it go. But if it works for me, I'm gonna stick with it. You know?
Yep.
And it's one of those things. It's like just trust the process, stick with it for a bit, and see what it does for you. And I think it's gonna change your life.
All right, question 5. Yeah, we got a little hung up there, but I knew we would. And
well, that's the big one, right? So
I'm glad we did. Yeah, everyone else's tag videos are like 10, 12 minutes long. Ours is going to
We can't do that.
We're going to be like 75.
I feel like you could do it, Ernie, but if I'm talking, I don't know. All
right, question 5. How many categories do you have altogether?
All right. You go ahead, Ernie.
I've got 7 groups, 77 total categories. And I think every time I have mentioned the number of categories, it's always changed from the time before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that it's the math works out. You got 11 categories per group on average. Like perfect.
I know. I like that too.
At the moment, I have 16 groups, 116 categories. So I've told you guys I'm in my more category era. And I didn't make any caveats. I just there's some that are like temporary categories. I just said, you know what? I'm just gonna count them all. And there it is.
Yep, that's what I did too.
And I'm proud. So there you go.
All right, which category? This is question 6. Which category gets the most spending each month?
Okay, this is an interesting question because I think it can be taken a couple different ways. I feel like Neve took it as like the largest number of transactions, but I also am interested in like the most spending overall. So I was curious if you knew that too.
Boy, I don't know based on volume transactions. You know, I guess if I had to guess, I would say it's the also this same category that I spend the most out of.
Okay.
So for me, it's groceries.
Yeah, that's big.
Which surprised me. I thought for sure it was going to be the mortgage.
Oh, yeah.
But I looked at my reports, January through June, groceries, 11% of our total spending.
Okay. There you go. For me, the largest single like the amount spent is kids' college. I've got 4 kids, and we are saving just to save half of the tuition. Is by far our largest category, even more than retirement and giving. Those are like the big 3: is retirement, giving, and kids' college. That right there, like those 3 alone make up like more than a third of our spending for the month.
Okay.
Although you call it spending or savings, I guess it's kind of both. I mean, it's going to be spent eventually.
Right.
Right.
All the same.
It's all the same. So there's that. As far as like, but I also took it to mean, okay, what's the largest number of transactions? For me, the poker category is by far the largest number of transactions,
You get like
which I've talked
30
about.
transactions a night or something, don't you?
Yeah. And even though I only do like 1, maybe 2 poker nights a month, it's by far the most. But what was really interesting, I was like, okay, that was like kind of a given. I knew that. But what's the second one was actually Ben's spending, my personal spending.
Hey, good for you.
Yeah, the volume, the number of transactions is really high. So because I do lots of little things. Whereas it was really interesting because I looked at Caitlin's spending, hers was like way down the list. So she like buys more larger things, and I'm like spending it on. I'm like a teenager. Like I'm like a little treat here, a little treat there, a little, So that's how I spend that money, and I find that really interesting.
Very nice. All right, number 7. What's your most unusual or unexpected category?
Okay, you go first.
Burial plots.
Oh yeah.
This came up a number of episodes ago, and it was completely out of the blue. I don't even know what Christy and I were talking about, maybe death, but she's just like, hey, I think we need to start saving for burial plots.
We're getting old, babe.
So I'm like, okay, and open up YNAB and put a category for it, and it's attracting a little bit of money.
I love it. I think it's kind of a kindness for the next generation. When you're gone, this thing is taken care of. It's kind of nice. So. Right.
Well, and I kind of want to have a say where I'm laid to rest.
You better have like a mausoleum. Like this better be nice. If you're saving this early, like you better have a nice burial. Like it better be like a shrine.
No. This is going to be very, very simple. I'm thinking rural, like, somewhere next to a cornfield, just quiet and peaceful and just really, really simple.
I love it. My most unusual or unexpected category, I put batteries because we've talked about this before.
Yep.
My batteries category, I still love it so much because I don't spend it but once every few months, and when I do, it's just so nice to not have to worry about it anymore.
Okay, so when we originally talked about this, I think we kind of went on this tangent where we were just like super dad angry about batteries and the amount used, but you seem to be all zen about it now.
I am zen about it. I don't care anymore. Yeah, that's what it is. It's not like I'm fine with it because I set money aside for it. I think what I'm telling myself is, hey, I actually do value this. That's interesting. I think when you create a category for something and you start funding it, you're saying, I value this thing. So when I spend money on it, I don't care. Not that I don't care. It doesn't make me mad because I've already signaled to myself over and over, I actually do value this thing. And I don't have to worry about it anymore. It doesn't blow up my sundries category every so often. And it's like only like $7 a month or maybe less. I don't remember how much I put in there, but it's not much. And when it comes time to buy a bunch of Duracells, I can just do it. Don't have to worry about it. Feels good. So I think I joke about it like it is so specific, and I do think you can get too specific in your categories, but I do think it's kind of emblematic of how powerful YNAB is, because I don't worry, because that's a thing I worried about, and I don't worry about it anymore,
I mean, I've told this story before, but I used to get so frustrated with all the spending that we do with our dog Ridge, because I was constantly having to cover the overspending in that category. It's just one singular category. I'm like, this is stupid. And so I don't want to get mad every time we buy him dog food or get him a haircut. So let's separate it out. Like, what are his actual expenses, save for them? And that basically it eliminated the overspending.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I wasn't getting angry anymore when we were buying those things because I had money for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think there is a really interesting lesson here. It's like pay attention to your emotions when you're spending money, especially when you're like covering over spending or just there's any kind of friction in your spending because with Ridge or for me with batteries, right? I think it's like you recognize, okay, I'm angry about this. Am I angry about this because I don't have a system for handling it and it's like frustrating me that I don't have a system for handling it? Or am I angry about it because I really don't want to spend money that way? Right. And I think for Ridge, you realize I actually do want to spend money this way, or
Yes.
at least my household does. Right.
I'm on board too.
Okay. And the problem was more that you hadn't made a system for handling it properly. You hadn't
Yeah.
properly funded it, right?
Yep.
And now that you properly funded it, it's a joy, right? So you take these frustrations, you turn them into joy, or you can say, no, I'm mad about this because I don't want to spend money that way, and I actually have the power to choose not to spend money that way. Either way, you can get rid of the negative emotions around it, and that's huge.
Totally.
I also put down as honorable mentions my compassion category, which I've talked about before, which I've found actually is not that unusual. People call this a lot of things, but it's just like a random acts of kindness category. Like I have like regular giving categories where I give to organizations, but I wanted one where I could just like give a nice tip or like pay for somebody, or like pay for somebody's meal, like a friend, or like bring food to a house that a family that just had a baby, stuff like that, and not have to worry about where the money's going to come from. So having that is just a way to freely give without having to figure out where I'm going to handle overspending is nice. And then I also have my remote work funds category, which I told you
Yes.
guys, yeah, this is a category where it's like a use it or lose it thing. 'Cause it's a fill up to category where Caitlin and I, we have separate ones and we can go to like a coffee shop to work because we both work remote. And it's just nice to get out of the house sometimes. And that has been really, I really started it as a way to get Caitlin to agree to increase our personal spending because I was using personal spending for it before. And I was like, well, what if we did this? And she loved the idea. And it ultimately resulted in the personal spending being increased.
I love stuff
But-
like that.
I know, right? But like, and she knew that was what was going on. But she was like, actually, I really like that idea of just separating it to kind of guard that money. And the use it or lose it thing was really nice because I'm like getting to the end of the month here. We're recording in June, and I've only used like a third of it. And I'm like, oh, I should go out and work at a coffee shop more, because it's like almost like a signal that like I haven't gotten out in a while. So
Yeah.
I like it.
Nice. All right, question A. Which of the 5 YNAB questions is your favorite and why?
Okay. Yeah, you go first again on this one. I don't want to jump the gun here.
Mine is the stability question.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read this just so I get it right. What larger or less frequent spending do I need to prepare for?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was a game changer from day one. I've kind of alluded to it already, but not being able to save for car repairs, yearly bills, Christmas, birthdays, things like that. Once I finally was able to dial that in, it changed everything.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Pre-YNAB, I mean, I was saving for those things. I had individual savings accounts for car stuff, Christmas,
Okay.
medical bills, and I think there were like 2 others. But every time I would put money in them, I would, a couple months later, pull it out for something else.
Yeah.
And I think the problem is because I hadn't identified all of my non-monthlies.
Mm-hmm.
So once
Yeah,
I
that's
got
interesting.
serious about all of the expenses that are truly in my life and was able to set a little bit aside for all of them. And keep in mind, folks, in these early years of YNAB, this is when, Christy and I, we were not making a lot of money. So we were not putting a whole lot towards these things every single month. But
Right.
doing that month after month after month, it started to add up. And boy, did it give us that stability.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It kind of interacts with what you were talking about before with weighing the trade-offs. Like I think that's maybe one reason why you were not pulling the money out of these savings goals is because you had weighed the trade-offs already and you saw that you valued this. And so like seeing that you valued it caused you to leave it there. you know?
Yep. Yeah, because what we were doing previously is basically just with the discretionary income is having fun. We were taking these little trips here and there and, eating out a ton. And so just dialing that back a little gave us some more margin to start saving for these other things. And then once we started paying for those things, it's like, oh yeah, this is totally worth it. Not having to sweat that car repair or not having to sweat Christmas anymore. Man, game changer.
Yeah, I really think this element, saving for non-monthly expenses as a core part of how we YNAB is, in some ways, it's kind of a bummer to get that news because it's like you're kind of saying, you don't have as much discretionary income as you think you do, right?
Yeah.
Because you have all these things you got to take care of that don't happen every month that you don't think about. And it's almost kind of like bad news to say that to somebody. But once you embrace it, like once you really admit it, nothing actually changes. Like you're not actually saying, it's not like you didn't have those expenses before. Like it's saying you don't have as much discretionary spending as you think you do, because, and that's just the truth. Like it's not like once you find out about it, it's true. It's like it was true before. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. It was giving future Ernie a place at the table. I was just bringing that future self into the conversation and letting them have a say.
Yeah, so it's true whether you acknowledge it or not, right? So once you do acknowledge it and you start preparing for it, if it just frees you up. And the discretionary spending, the more fun spending, is actually fun because you don't have these things that blindside you,
Right. I'm not, doing something fun then thinking, oh geez, am I going to need that money, in 3 months for a water bill that I completely forgot about?
Yeah. Well, for
How
me,
about
I
you?
actually thought about it because I was thinking about how important to me getting a month ahead was, right? So I was thinking about going with that, but I think I'm still going to what I've always gone to. What changes do I need to make, if any? That question is everything to me. It's just being flexible, not having to. It makes the whole process easier, knowing that I can change my mind later if I want to.
Yeah.
And not having to be so rigid. Because again, it's not so much about like making a budget and sticking to it. It's more about having a framework for making decisions for me, having a way to deal with my worry. And if I couldn't make changes, I would worry more. I wouldn't worry less, right? Because I actually have this flexibility where I can change my mind and actually make the framework work for me instead of having to like kind of force my life into something that worked 3 weeks ago but isn't working now, right? So that's huge.
Early on in your YNAB journey, was that hard to do? Or was it hard to, actually, was it hard to stomach? Like, was there something in you telling you that you're doing something wrong by making a change?
I think at the beginning of my journey was more about overspending. Like I would overspend and then I would move money to cover it. And that alone was a big deal because I wasn't doing this like zero-based thing before. And it actually, it kind of like says, hey, like there's actually trade-offs that you're making. There's actually like consequences. Like if you do overspend on this, you're saying no to something else and it's making it real. But as I got better and better at using YNAB, I started checking my plan before I spent, and I started moving money ahead of time, right? That find the money first idea that we talk about so much. And that's when it really lit up for me because I didn't have to say no just because there wasn't enough money in a category. I said no because I valued the other things more. And so what's really awesome about it is, yes, you can say no, but it's not just about like restricting yourself. Like when I said no before, it was like I'm saying no and I'm sad about it, right? Now I say no and I'm happy about it because I have a reason for saying no, like not just a moralistic reason, like an actual reason, right? Or I can say yes because I realize I don't value this other thing as much as I do, right? So I think what it does for me is makes the decisions have a basis behind them, and that makes me worry less, because I'm not just making it for some moral reason. I'm not making it for making the decision because I'm willy-nilly and wild and free either, because that also makes me anxious, right?
Yeah.
Both sides of it, this like mean moralistic side and this like wild and carefree side. I have like that. My personality is split. Like I am such a spender, and I am such a rule follower. Like I am it appeases both sides in this really beautiful way, and I think kind of integrates me as one person. And as a result is I don't worry about it as much, and it's huge.
Yeah, I think a lot of times that old budgeting mentality comes in with new users of, hey, you set it at the beginning of the month and you can't change it, right? You got to stick to your plan. If you don't, you're a failure.
Mm-hmm.
So I often tell new YNABers, hey, if you're making changes, that's actually winning. Like you're doing it the right way because you're taking new information, new priorities, new circumstances, and you're accounting for those in your spending plan. And that's huge because it's always making sure that money's aligned with priorities, that you're staying intentional.
Yeah, especially if you're new, because you don't have a clue how much you need for groceries. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're just making guesses. So you're going to make a lot of changes, and your priorities and your goals will settle over time. But then they're going to change again, and that's what's so exciting about it is your desires, your priorities, your goals change, and you need to change along with it. And if you make it really rigid, you actually have a less dynamic life as a result. So having this part of making changes anytime you need to for whatever reason you want, just have a reason why you're making a change, right? It needs to have a reason. And that reason can be because I want to, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But have a reason, and then you won't worry. So that's huge.
Question 9. Are you a month ahead? And if so, by how much?
Yeah, I'll go first for this one. I am, and recently switched from being 2 months ahead to actually just being a month ahead. And I like it. I think just because I have a really regular income, I think going more than 1 month ahead for me was just logistically complicated. It wasn't really necessary. So I took that 2 months ahead money and I parked it into an emergency fund, and I actually like having a larger, I call it my job loss fund now. It's nice having like a larger job loss fund, and even though it's all the same money, right? But it just makes me feel a little more secure. And then logistically, it's just simpler to just be 1 month ahead. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I'm also a month ahead, only 1 month ahead. And I said at the beginning, this is one of those things where originally I'm like, nope, can't do it. That's never going to happen. And then you start YNAB and you're like, oh, this is totally doable. And it was one of the last goals because I was focusing on paying off debt first. But once we paid off, everything but the mortgage, then I shifted to getting a month ahead, and that happened relatively fast. But yeah, and when I say a month ahead, I mean I'm funding the monthly bills and the non-monthlies, all of them. So the only thing that is not a month ahead are the goals. But we have so many, you'll see that coming up in a question here. I just kind of, when we get windfalls, we pick and choose what we want to fund for the goals.
It was really cool hearing Neve talk about this, the one who tagged us. Because she's only been using YNAB for 2 or 3 months. Like she's like brand new at this. And I could see her eyes lighting up when she's talking about, like, she had a specific number that she was ahead, right? And I could see her like tracking it, and really, it just was really exciting because it's just like, oh man, I remember that feeling. Because like this is one of the only things in YNAB where like you can kind of like do it, like you can kind of like finish it and it's done. Now you still have to like maintain it, but yeah, I almost kind of like miss those days of like really that being a goal because it was so exciting for me,
I remember that feeling too. I was so excited. Like I kept flipping back and forth between the current month and the next month. And I'm like, oh my goodness, it's not even the beginning of the next month. And I've got money set aside for everything. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it feels good. All right, what's the next one?
What's currently on your wish farm?
Okay, yeah. You go ahead for this one.
Yeah, let me open up the old mobile app. Take a look-ski-poo here. Okay, we got quite a few. Burial plots, talked about those. Fireplace, this is something that we're actually going to put in place really soon here. We're talking with a couple different companies. So we have a fireplace, but we want to put an insert in. Probably a wood-burning insert. So excited for that. Here's a new one, golf lessons. I want to take golf lessons. It's probably going to cost about $1,000.
Nice.
And
Okay.
so the next category is golf lessons equivalent. So if I'm spending $1,000, because this is not coming out of my personal money.
I see. Okay.
So I'm like, if I'm spending $1,000, well, then Christy gets to spend $1,000 however she wants.
Fair's fair,
It
right?
doesn't
Yeah.
come from her personal money.
But she doesn't know what it is yet. So you're just kind of like, whatever, something of equal value for Christy. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
I like that.
Guest bedroom. So we're just going to kind of furnish that. House remodel. This has $0 in it.
It's not very specific yet. I know. It's like, that's too broad, right?
So here's the origin story of this. We go on the Parade of Homes every single year. It's like one of our favorite things to do every single summer. And so, of course, right, you're looking at these beautiful homes and you're getting all these different ideas and you come back and like, I mean, we did it again this year. We're like, oh, we could do this, we could do that. And so, you know, if ever something sticks, I kind of have a place marker for that.
Yeah, I do this. I've done this before where it's just like, I know this is something I want. I'm just like add it into YNAB and see if it attracts some money. And then you'll see if you really want it or not, you know? So you haven't gotten there yet, but I think you will.
Job loss. That's not really a wish farm type thing, but that's where I kind of tuck it under. Mom and dad's 50th anniversary. I want to take them out for a really nice dinner.
Nice.
New suit. So this is something I just added a couple days ago. I want to get myself a nice tailored suit.
Okay.
I'm almost 48 years old. I deserve that, I feel like.
I would like that too. That would be nice. Yeah.
I've been wearing this, you know, off the shelves, you know, Target suit for years. I don't like the way it looks. I don't like the way I feel in it. So I want to change that.
I want to see you in that suit. That sounds awesome.
And the emoji is really weird. Like I looked up suit and it's like a man levitating wearing a suit.
I mean, he's wearing a suit. So maybe that's what it is. It's like once you get this tailored suit, you'll like achieve enlightenment and start levitating.
Yeah, I don't know. Passports. So Christy and I need to renew ours, and we need to get passports for the boys. This is probably my favorite one I'm saving for. Ryder Cup 2029. So Ryder Cup is a golf tournament.
Okay.
It happens every other year between the US and Europe. And it's a fanatical event. Like fans just go crazy at this. And the players do too. Like it's a really fun tournament, but it's coming to Minnesota in 2029.
Okay.
And so my friend and I are like, hey, we got to go to this thing. So I'm putting $9 a month aside every single month. So it's just like pennies basically, but
but you'll get there.
I'll get there.
Yeah.
And then senior year 2027. So Simeon is graduating. He's our youngest, the final one. And boy, we're less than a year away from his grad party.
Yeah.
So I've had this for like 2 years now and it's just barely attracting money, but now I'm starting to feel that urgency and it's attracting a lot more.
I think it's nice that you have that intention for so long to save for this party. You know?
Yeah.
It's a big deal. That's awesome.
How about you?
Well, I already mentioned some of these. Teddy's braces, which just got funded and paid yesterday. So that's actually done, but it was on the list. A kitchen renovation, which may be I'm not even actually sure how much. Like we're setting money aside for it just to get like an assessment because we need like an engineer to come because we want to knock down a wall. Yeah.
Okay.
So we need an engineer to be like, is your house going to fall down if we knock this wall down? So like that's the first step. So we're saving. So more specifically, we're saving for that. But yeah, it'll involve quite a big change to the house. So that's exciting. It's just like the kitchen's just like really cut off from everything else right now, and so we wanted it to open it up a little more. Beach vacation 2026, which we actually had funded, but I think we're rethinking that. We're going to do something smaller and send that money to one of these other things instead. So
okay.
That'll be interesting. And then this is the funny one, a new chair for Ben, because I got this office chair right here. Okay. I sit in this dang thing 8 hours a day or even more because this is also like my gaming spot. Like this is like a happy place for me. So our colleague Dan is like super into like good posture. He has this like whole method that he teaches, that he's like certified in, and he recommends this particular office chair that is fancy, let me tell you. But like I'm like I really do value this, and Caitlin's super on board. She's like very intrigued by it. So yeah, it's a lot of money, but I think we're gonna save up for it. I did have a good amount of money in there, but we moved that to Teddy's braces instead. So,
Okay.
so there is some movement between these two things, but I think we'll get there eventually. So it feels good.
Man, I should put that in my wish farm because I need a new chair bad.
I know. I mean, like, it's kind of like a bed. I feel like there's a good argument for like you spend a lot of time in this thing.
Yep.
You know, and probably too much. I should probably get one of those like treadmill desks instead. but yeah, it's something that's valuable because you use it a lot, but you don't tend to value it unless you think about it, you know. So yeah, that's what's on there for me.
All right. Question 11. What's your most ambitious savings goal right now?
It's the kitchen renovation for me. Yeah, that I don't know how much it's going to be, but it's going to be, well, you know, I'm actually rethinking that right now because we're just at the beginning of saving for a new car too. So those two might kind of rival each other because I do want to pay for that in cash, and it's going to be an older, probably like a little like Toyota Corolla or something like that, right? A little four door. So, yeah, those are kind of competing with each other. I'm not sure which is bigger, but we'll be going after both in the coming years, I think. So we'll see.
In my spending plan, it's probably the senior year 2027.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, what about retirement? And I thought about
That's a
the
good
amount
point.
of money that Christy and I are contributing every single month. And I'm like, that by far is the largest amount. That's our most ambitious goal.
And it is a savings goal, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess you can consider that. Yeah, because I just think of that as like a monthly expense, like forever kind of a thing. But
Right.
it is a savings goal.
It
You're going
is.
for
Yeah.
it.
For me, I have an amount in mind and I have a time frame in mind. So yeah, we're going after that and
Sounds good.
we'll see.
All right.
Okay. 12. What's your age of money?
Oh, 94 days for me. And I was looking, it was my highest recent one. It was up to 107 days in November last year. And then we bought the car and it went down to quite a bit lower than that. And it's gone back up now to 94 days. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Mine's at 118.
Okay.
This is the largest it's been in a year.
Yeah. Why do you think that
So-
is?
Well, we got a new roof last summer and
Okay.
that's when it took a really, really big dip.
Yeah.
So, but that's just my only guess. And I've been watching these tag videos. There's a lot of questions about age of money, like what is it? So,
Mhm.
I mean, basically, like in our cases, well, my case, I'm spending money that on average I earned 118 days ago.
Yeah.
So 3.5 months ago.
Yeah. It's just a measure of how long money sits in your account. If a new dollar comes into your accounts, how long does it sit before it's spent on average? And it's just a way to kind of measure your progress on having a little more stability and a little more calm in your finances. And
Yeah.
especially when you first get started, I think it's really fun to watch that number go up. Like I think Neve said she was at like 17 days or something like that, which is pretty darn good for just starting.
Yes.
So I think she's she's like, I'm gonna get there pretty quick to 30 days, which is a big milestone.
Yeah, I was actually surprised when I saw mine because I don't check that number very often. And I don't put a whole lot of stock in it either. It's just, 118. Okay, interesting. Let's move on.
Yeah. But it's always fun to look at it and see how things change. It almost kind of tells a story of your spending because you can see it like it dip and be like, oh yeah, that's when I bought this thing. Or you can see it kind of go up and be like, oh, why is that going up? And what am I saving for? It's like, oh, because you can kind of, I think it like points you to other things in your plan. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, final question here. Who do you tag next? So
Yeah.
we've got 3 folks. We're going to tag Kaylee and Shay from Just Finance.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to tag Avery from Avery's Money Moves. And then finally, we're going to tag Tyler over at YNAB IRL.
There you go. All right. So check all those channels out and check out Neve's channel as well. And yeah, there's a whole world out there, guys, of people talking about YNAB doing, if you just search YNAB with me, you'll find so many people just showing it all. Is going through it. It's really fun.
I love watching those videos because, yeah, you get that inside look to their priorities, what's going on. It's fun to see what their rituals are, their routines, things like that. Yeah, and also
you're doing it too, right?
Yeah, I'm doing that occasionally, putting myself out there, trying to get to their level. We'll see someday, but
yeah.
And I just wanted to say thanks again to Neve for tagging us. I love your channel. It's fun watching you do the YNABs with me and your tutorials that you're putting out there for new YNABers. So keep doing that and appreciate sending the love our way. And we had a lot of fun doing this. So thanks again.
Yeah, thanks. All right, well, let's do some YNAB wins.
Let's do it.
You wanna make it.
Okay, I have one from Mommy Cot is the username, who wrote in a comment on the "Do I have to give every dollar a job" episode, which I think is pretty fun. They said, "I found you guys on my commute to work and have been listening to this in podcast form, or in podcasts from the first episode, and just caught up to this one. I headed to YouTube to come argue with you because this was the first episode I really disagreed with, and it was over the account buffers. However, as I mentally composed my comment, I thought, OMG, I think they're right." I just moved $2,050 back to ready to sign and removed my buffer categories. After several years of using YNAB and listening to you, I've simplified everything and closed 6 bank accounts that I used to manage the purpose of money, and now realize I can trust my categories. I don't have to have buffers. Now there's a YNAB win. That is a YNAB win. I love that.
I love that.
That's just a sign. This is a common thing. You create like a category that's like checking account buffer, just to make sure you always have enough in the checking account. But I think the more you use YNAB, the more you just have cash lying around, because that's cash is king here, right? We do that a lot. And you find, I don't really need this. So I think letting go of that, or letting go of the multiple bank accounts, is just a sign you're trusting YNAB more, and it's becoming more integrated in your financial life. And that's a big win. I love that.
All right. My win comes from, I think it said Graphidil. This is on the 7 Habits episode. My YNAB win last month was only having 1 day of income in 2 weeks in August, but not stressing about money, and also being able to contribute to a good cause because there was some money in a given category.
Oh, I love
Hey,
that.
that is fantastic. The circumstances aren't dictating what's going on with your money situation, not influencing those emotions. So that's huge.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Yeah, the circumstances don't dictate how you have to feel about money. That's huge. It's a big deal.
If you have a YNAB win, you can leave it in the comments section over on YouTube. Otherwise, email us directly at budgetnerds@ynab.com. It took me a while to remember what is our actual email address, Ben. So there it is, budgetnerds@ynab.com. All right, folks,
All right.
Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right, see you later.